Hey guys, as you know, the podcast is brought to you by Yellow Jacket. I know you guys know about all the different gauges and all the different products that Yellow Jacket offers, but maybe there's some stuff that you don't know about Yellow Jacket. So why don't you let Kelly drop a little knowledge on you? Go ahead and shoot, Kel.
Ritchie Engineering Company, Incorporated, is a leading worldwide supplier of U.S. designed and manufactured tools and equipment for the HVAC and automotive industries. They are committed to providing their customers with innovative quality products, ongoing training and education, and above all, superior service. They continually strive for excellence while providing a safe and healthy work environment and developing and nurturing successful relationships through honesty, trust, and respect. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless the United States.
If you're trying to take your HVAC game to the next level, then buckle your seatbelt, crank up the volume, and try not to be offended, because you're listening to the HVAC Uncensored podcast with Gil Kelley and Kelly McKay. Now, here's Gil and Kelley.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the HVAC Uncensored podcast. We are here for episode 15, and we are...
Let's get ready to rumble!
Sorry, I like that. But yes, we are back for episode 15. Yours truly, Gil Kelley, sitting aside my good buddy, Mr. Kelly McKay. What is up, brother?
Rain. Lots of it. It's been raining for like 2.5 days straight here, so it's been pretty miserable working conditions.
I know, man. It sucks. And you know, we went through that here. I felt like I was living in Seattle. It just, rain's just miserable, man. It's miserable to work in, and it gives you that kind of mood. You're just like, ugh. You don't feel like doing shit in the rain because it's so miserable. So I know that sucks. And you guys are pretty cold out there right now, aren't you?
Not too bad yet, but I know we got some lows coming. I think Friday night's going to be a low of 40, so that's going to be the lowest that it's been so far. Or like, I don't know, mid 60s to mid to low 60s.
Yeah,
and wet.
Yeah. That'll do it. We've been it's been like 70s here, like mid. Sometimes it's been in the high 70s. I think at one point today it got to like 78. But the temperature is not bad, but humidity is still up there, which makes it kind of rough sometimes. But we're gonna drop here too. Like we were talking about earlier, I know I look in the forecast for next week, and we're supposed to be dropping in the 60s, a couple of days in the 50s, and that's the high. So the lows, like overnight, are getting down into I think 40 is the lowest. I didn't see any 30s overnight. I don't think so. So
yeah, fuck, I was wrong. Like tomorrow night, low of 37, high of 58. So we may get some calls Thursday morning. Some people turning their furnaces on for the first time. Woo!
Yeah, baby. I'm looking forward to heating season.
I'll take it.
I don't know about all you listeners out there, man, but I don't know. That changed the season. Like, obviously, everybody love air conditioning. You know, obviously, it's a moneymaker. You know, you make money during the summer, but sometimes you get tired of working on the same shit, doing the same thing over and over. And now I don't know. I'm kind of excited to get in some furnaces, check out some heat exchangers, and just do some different things. Just, another chapter in the book, so to speak. I'll try to be a philosophizer.
Keep things fresh, keep things from getting stale. And all you new guys who had maybe one furnace under your belt, it's time to relearn everything again. Because it's always tough. It's always tough when you're starting out and you just get one season under your belt And you just, when you think you just about have it figured out, that's when the seasons change, and then you stop working on the shit that you kind of had figured out, and it's time to learn again.
No, that's true. That's actually a good topic that you just brought up for those new guys. Why don't we cover in this maybe like the sequence of operations for a furnace? We don't got to go in detail. I'm not talking about doing a service call, but just maybe we can go through the sequence of operations, maybe tell some of these young guys like, and I know this sounds like a dumb question for me and you, but I get a lot of guys checking heat pumps for the first time and they're like, where do I hook my gauges up at? And I know for us, we're like, what do you mean? But a lot of younger guys don't know that.
Yeah, do not hook your low side, your suction line gauge to your normal suction line, because that, with the reversing valve in there, it's going to be your hot gas line, which is extremely high pressure, and do not do that. So you learn really quickly. It only takes maybe twice before you don't do it again. You got to look for that second port. Just depends on the unit and the brand where that port is. But it's going to be the port that's, if you just look at the refrigerant lines, it's going to be the one that goes straight to the compressor. So there really won't be much of anything in between it. It's usually like right past the reversing valve, or there'll be something, just a Schrader core or a Schrader valve welded in and ran out to the exterior of the cabinet somewhere. So
yeah, guys. So that's going to be a small line that they call the true suction. And what happens is that's going to go directly to that middle port that is on the reversing valve. That is, no matter what that shift into, that's always going to be your suction. Depending on your brand, like people know I'm familiar with Carrier, and a lot of brands are like this. It'll actually go to an accumulator and then to your compressor. So you'll know by that. So that's your suction, whether you're in heat, cool, it doesn't matter. So you're going to put your low side, your blue, on that true suction, and then your red hose, you're going to put on your, the big line, which is now your discharge, what you used to be your suction line in air conditioning. But some good little tips that a lot of you guys, if you're in the Facebook group, you saw that I went to a Carrier class today, and it was basic heat pump class that I've taken a gazillion times. But just the fact that it's fresh in my mind, there's probably some good things just to point out for some of you guys. And a lot of you guys listen, I know that you're going to be like, man, I know all this. So it's just a refresher, just
I normally just put my my high side just on the, my liquid line. I don't normally put it on the hot gas line when I'm checking a heat pump. I don't even know what the pressure should be on the hot gas line on a heat pump, because I just don't normally check it myself. I've probably been doing it wrong all these years.
Yeah, there's to be honest, as far as it's hard to check the refrigerant charge in heating. It really is. I mean, obviously you can go by some different things, amp draw, your delta T, which it's going to be very similar to what it's supposed to be in air conditioning. But when you're taking that delta T, that is not counting, the heat strips, the auxiliary heat being on. That's just the heat pump running. One good thing that I've loved to do is your discharge superheat. Okay, so you're going to, just like you would get your superheat normally, you're going to take the temperature of that discharge line, which is now which was the suction line, and then you're just going to convert your pressure into temperature and find your superheat. Normally, they say that you want that to be, I know Carrier says like 35 to 65. If some guys don't know that, that's a cool little tip. And to be honest, I didn't always know that. That's something that I'll be honest with you, I've learned to do that maybe over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I've never even heard of that. So that's a good tip, because I never heard of it. So
yeah, so a lot of you guys, if you're just starting out and you're doing air conditioning, it's gonna be the same principles when you're checking these systems. Okay, you guys know that this system, there's a reversing valve in the system that all it does is switch the flow of refrigerant. Okay, so we know that normally our evaporator, which, speaking of this, in my class today, they had a slide of Jim Bergman where he explains the refrigeration cycle. If you guys have not seen it, or some of you guys that don't necessarily know the refrigeration circuit, like you know it, but you don't know it, that is a great slide. I think Jim, I mean, obviously we all know Jim is a very, very smart man. That is the best explanation of it. Just the way he explains it. It's a lot of information, but in layman's terms that I think it's just very, very easy to understand. So if you guys have not checked that out, I'm pretty sure you can YouTube it and find it. It shouldn't be hard, but just Jim Bergman, talking about the refrigeration cycle. But anyway, you guys just know that obviously inside in air conditioning, we're absorbing heat. That refrigerant is boiling off. Okay, then we're going back to the compressor. Yep, it's going to compress it. It's going to go through the condenser coil where it's going to condense. The bottom of that coil is going to be a liquid, and that liquid's going to go back to the metering device and start the whole process over. And I know I'm not going thorough into the refrigeration cycle. Thus the reason I plugged Jim Bergen's thing, because I don't want to go too in depth into that because that's not why I brought it up. But then you guys know that in the heat pump, you're just reversing that cycle. Okay, it's the same thing. Outside, now we're absorbing heat, taking that discharge gas and taking that inside, and that's what we're using. We're using the heat. Now inside, it's that cool air is coming across it, gonna absorb that. The same principle, just in reverse. So it's I think some guys build it up more in their head. Do you think that? I think they're not as hard as there is some things that are hard, especially when you get in some of the higher end stuff, but I know with me, when I first started, I made them worse than they were.
Yeah, I used to fucking hate heat pumps. And I was the same way with water source heat pumps. And then, after several years have passed and I've matured quite a bit, you realize that that's like our first defense. When you don't understand something, you say you hate it. And it's just a case of you just don't understand it. Because once you understand it, you won't hate them anymore. They're not. We make it out to be, you got all these extra controls, which you really don't have that many extra controls. You got a defrost board and a reversing valve and maybe some sensors, but other than that, there's really not much else to it. So, but we do make it more than it needs to be. But
yeah,
I don't know where I was going with that. I was just going to say that for years, I hated heat pumps. Absolutely hated them. And then one day it clicked, and I've never minded them since. So,
and see, and that's the thing, that moment that you had, that click, I think that happens for us all. And not even with heat pumps, with anything. I mean,
right.
Like you said, I don't want to use the word ignorance, but I'm using the word ignorance as in not knowing. Like Kelly just said, we don't know how to do something and we're like, oh, I hate those. These things suck. When they don't, it's just the fact that we don't know them 100%. So that's how we build that up in our mind. But
yeah, I can tell you one thing that kind of trips people up is like, a really common problem that you're going to find with heat pumps is going to be like high pressure switch tripped outside. And so we're stuck in the cooling mode and we naturally want to think, oh, it's a dirty condenser coil. But you got to remember the flow of refrigerant is reversed. So now your evaporator coil is acting like a condenser coil. So that's where the problem is typically a dirty filter, or, the coil's been plugged up, or there's lack of airflow for one reason or another. But we naturally want to tend to go and think in cooling terms. So just remember, it's those little things like that you just start getting used to, and then you can diagnose things a lot quicker.
Yeah, and another thing, that's something that seems simple, but there's a lot of people that have asked me this and I've had to explain this to. Actually, a big name that I think I've already said somewhere, but I'm not going to bring that up. But guys, these defrost boards, okay, normally I get guys, and I've had several calls where they'll be out there and, and they're checking, they're like, oh, okay, between common and why? Okay, so I got the call coming out for the compressor to run. And then depending on what brand of unit, Riemann Rude will be in heating, all the rest are in cooling. So, okay, between common and O, I got a call for the reversing valve, oh, this fucking defrost board's bad. Okay, guys, the first thing you should check is between common and R. Because even if you have 24 volts, on yellow and on orange for the reversing valve. Without that 24 volts, okay, what that's powering that board. Okay, that's what's going to make your defrost clock run. And when you lose that power, a good example is like your microwave. Your microwave loses power, what happens? The time flashes. It loses its programming. It's the same thing with those defrost boards. Okay, so if you don't have 24 volts, it's not gonna run. Or if you lose it, it's gonna keep starting that clock over and over. So defrost boards are not very complicated, but you guys need to learn how to read wiring schematics. And some of these defrost boards, like, to be honest, they get a little different, and you need to know how to like ohm out the defrost thermostats. Almost, I don't care what brand you're working on, almost every defrost thermostat out there is a 10K ohm resistor. Okay, that's normally 10K ohms at 77 degrees ambient temperature. But there's charts online everywhere that'll tell you at a certain temperature this is what should be, and you need to check those. You know, if that's out of whack, you need to change it. But just little things like that, because some of my tech support buddies that I talk to, they say they get defrost boards back all the time, and there's not a goddamn thing wrong with it. It's just guys they just didn't know what they were checking, you know? And I know that before anybody tries to call me out, I know that some other defrost thermostats and resistors and stuff like that are different ohm readings. I'm just saying that every manufacturer at one point, or still does, has a resistor, a defrost thermostat that is, you know, a 10K ohm. So I can just, I know that for a fact. So you can kiss my ass. But
I think they're thermistors. So kiss my ass now. No, I don't know. All I know is that I like to test the defrost cycle. So if I'm, you know, doing a PM on a heat pump, I always like to test the defrost cycle. So sometimes you got to, you know, typically they're going to have jumper pins on them. Sometimes you got to hold your screwdriver across there for like up to 20 seconds for it to go into defrost on certain models. I remember a Ream unit that it used to have to do that on. But some units, like Goodman, for instance, there's a type of, I think it's just like a limit switch is basically how it operates, but you actually have to jumper that closed and then test it for it to go into defrost. So that's stuff you just have to learn by, yes, when you look at the schematic, like Gil said, you look at the schematic to figure out, okay, what has to happen for this to happen. But it's just something that comes with experience. The more you look at, the more you get familiar with them, the more you get familiar with wiring diagrams and what pressures you're looking for and all that good stuff. I mean, you'll improve. It just gets better and better and easier and easier. Then someday you just don't hate heat pumps anymore.
Yeah. Like you said, sometimes these are little tricks of the trade that you'll learn. And then a lot of times it also depends on what brand your company is, you know, installing, like whatever is the brand that you're pushing, because obviously we're going to service every brand, but you're going to see that brand more, you know, like Kelly is a Trane dealer. So his guys are going to see more Trane than most other brands. Me and my guys are going to see more Carrier than other brands. So obviously we're going to be more familiar with those brands, but it's all the same basic principle. You know, you get the lower end systems that got 30, 60, 90 minutes. Then you get normally a little bit above 30, 60, 90, 120. And then now there's some that's 30, 60, 90, 120 and auto. And normally what that auto setting means is it's going to go off of the last defrost cycle. So every time it goes on, it's going to base its defrost off the previous defrost cycle. And I know they all have a different name. I'm not sure what Trane's is. I know Carrier has their quiet shift now, where they shut the compressor off, will switch the reversing valve, and then start the compressor back up without the outdoor fan. And I know that's because people, you know, they don't like the noise of the, but it's actually
and it sounds like it's dying for a minute.
Yeah, it sounds like a 747 taking off.
How many calls do you get a winter of somebody who thinks their unit's on fire?
Oh yeah, a whole bunch of them. It's broke. It's making this funny noise. I'm like, does it happen to be like every couple hours? actually it is. I'm like, yeah, it's just defrost.
Or they'll say, no, it's only about 6 o'clock in the morning, because that's usually, the coldest part of the night, or whenever, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Another thing is, and I want to, guys, we're not going to make this podcast too long. You guys know, I mean, I had kind of a hectic weekend that I'm not going to go into detail. So planning, I mean, normally me and Kelly are pretty, pretty scheduled and planned with these things as far as, what we're going to talk about, what we're going to do. So we were actually just winging this, if you guys haven't already noticed. But I want to be able to get into a little bit of furnace stuff before we move on. But a few things that I know that some guys don't know is the purpose of an accumulator. Okay. An accumulator is there to protect your compressor from getting liquid to go back. Okay. I know, have you guys ever had a problem or you've ever seen where a customer, normally you notice in the spring, customers' heat pumps been working all winter, never had a problem, but then they switch into air conditioning and it's low on refrigerant. And they're like, man, what, thing worked all winter and never had a problem. Well, guys, think about it. In air conditioning, you have this big giant condenser coil that can hold refrigerant. Okay. Now your evaporator coil is now your condenser, which is maybe a third of the size of the outdoor unit.
If it's any less than a third of the size of the outdoor unit, then you're going to have high pressure switch problems all the time. So yeah, about a third.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So that's a place that's going to store that excess refrigerant, things like that. Normally you're going to have a little bit of, oil mixture in there. And one good tip for you carrier guys is probably not a bad tip for anyone. Carrier now, and I've had this issue, and Kelly, you could tell your guys, if you ever go out to those units and you change a compressor, 6 months later, you're changing another compressor and you're like, man, what the fuck? I got another compressor, did out of the box and all this other stuff. Especially if it's a burnout. Well, that screen at the bottom of the accumulator is getting plugged. Okay. So that oil is never making its way back into the system. So you're going to start that new compressor up. I think it's going to run for, maybe a couple of days, and then it's going to burn up because that oil is never returning to the compressor. Or you're going to get that burnt oil and all that stuff that was in there. You're going to start slugging it with dirt and all that kind of stuff. But now Carrier says that when you have a bad compressor, that they want you to change the accumulator as well. And I mean, really, if you're changing a compressor, accumulator is only two more joints. I mean, you're only sweating two more things. It's not really that big of a deal, but that does make sense. And it might be a tip for some guys. Normally they always say, what is it? The 3 C's, what is it? Contactor, capacitor, compressor. Well, now we got to be contactor, capacitor, compressor, and accumulator. So it's going to be the 3CA. Yeah. Ka-ka. There you go. But yeah, I won't sit here and talk about heat pumps anymore. I mean, is there anything you wanted to chime in? I know I'm having my motor mouth night again. My bad.
Just a quick question is, you come across and I will say this, is just, if you do come across a heat pump with a bad compressor, always inform the customer that there's always a possibility there could be something going on with the reversing valve, just so you cover your ass. That way, if you change the compressor and you fire it all up and find that the reversing valve's stuck, or or if it's, stuck in any position for that matter, if it's the wrong position, then that's going to be a tough conversation to have with the customer. So since we're talking about compressors, then definitely at least mention it, that, hey, I don't really know until I get this compressor. It's taking a risk. So might be a time to have if it's old enough, it's time to have that repair versus replace conversation.
No, that's actually awesome that you brought that up. I'm so glad, because that's actually something that I wanted to cover. Okay, guys, we know when we check compressors that we have a compressor that's either electrically bad, meaning that we have an open winding, it's grounded, or it's mechanically bad, meaning there's something inside, a mechanical failure that compressor's not doing what it has to do.
broken valves, broken
Yeah,
mounts, whatever the case.
Yeah, I mean, scroll compressors are a little bit more durable, but you can get that, that scroll plate can get messed up, et cetera. There's different things that can go bad. They're not as bad as the old Bristols that the piston, gets messed up. But the reason I brought that up is because, like Kelly was just saying, we've all had them where you get one of those compressors where it's a no pump, where it's
running,
not
just not pumping anything.
It's not saying exactly. Well, you can have reversing valve issues that can mimic that. Okay, when your pressure just balanced out, because if you got a reversing valve that's stuck right in the middle, okay, meaning that you're just letting your refrigerant just bypass over into each other and your pressures are balanced, you're going to be like, oh man, I got a no pump, compressor's bad. You're going to come out, like Kelly just said, you're going to change that compressor and then you're going to start it back up and the same thing's going to happen. And you're going to sit there, oh fuck. And now the customer's going to be like, dude, I just paid you $2,000 or whatever your company charges for a compressor. And now you have to go have that talk. So that's why I'm telling you guys this, just to save some guys some headaches. One thing that you can do temperature, obviously. Take the temperature of your lines. Obviously, one should be cold, one should be very, very hot. If they're like lukewarm, that refrigerant's mixing together, then you have a problem. But sometimes it's hard to tell that way. I have these little earth magnets that I can put it on there and I can watch that thing shift. I had an old head, my dad and some older guys that taught me that, and I've loved it. There's been times that I have one that's strong enough where I can actually shift that thing from outside, where I've been able to like get it to shift over and I'll just pull the coil off, and I've gotten somebody to run while I had to get apart. Normally it's getting it to go into for AC purposes, because obviously for heating it's going to be hard because you get it shift over, it's great, but the first time it tries to go into defrost, it's not going to be able to go. But that little magnet trick is a cool little thing to learn. But that's just a tip for you guys to save you a headache, so your boss isn't digging in your ass. You don't have a customer digging in your ass because you changed the compressor for nothing. So I hope that helps somebody.
One other little tip about reversing valves, just remember that some brands out there they energize the valve in heating. So like Ameristar switched to doing that for some reason, and Rheem, as far as I know, is still doing it. All the older Rheems do it. So it helps to know what position that thing is in. If it's using B or O. B is energized in heat, O is energized in cool.
Yeah, so Rheem still does it, and Rude.
Right.
Rheem and Rude's the same thing. I didn't know Ameristar did it. I've never touched an Ameristar. So I don't know much. I haven't even seen one, to be honest.
Hundreds, and they're pretty darn good little units. We like them. They've been nothing but good for us. So have had like one warranty compressor and like maybe 2 warranty run caps, and that's it. For like the last 4 or 5 years.
So is that what you? Well, that's good, man. Is that what you sell for like your budget line?
That's like our economy line.
Well, that's like similar, like with us. Obviously, we have Carrier, and then if people want really, really budget, then we'll do Payne, which is like the same concept.
Yep, it's good equipment. I'm sure you say the same thing about Payne. You've probably had good results with it. We all know, and we've had this discussion, not really on the podcast, but somewhere you've heard the discussion that is, if it's installed properly, it's going to work properly. It's just a case of making sure you pull a vacuum on it, at least 500 microns and lower if you got the time. And you have the airflow, as long as you got the airflow, is 2 major factors there.
Yeah, low airflow is a compressor killer for sure. But Kelly's saying that's normally what train dealers do to try to defend their status. But no, I'm
yeah.
I'm just
I was going to
joking.
say something earlier when you're talking about, you Carrier guys, here's what you need to do. And I was going to say, well, what you need to do is stop selling Carrier. But whatever, it's all good.
Yeah, so he's right. It doesn't matter what brand that you install. Yep. They all break. All of us service technicians that have been in the field for any amount of time, You're seeing every different brand when you go out to these service calls. You're not seeing the same unit. And that's just like, Goodman. I mean, I know Goodman gets a bad name, and I more or less have an issue with Goodman just because of who they let buy their equipment sometimes. Even though nowadays you can buy anything online. But and I always tell people, if you look at shout out to the AC um the AC guy on YouTube, Juan. If you look at his installs, and he installs Goodman, and if you watch his installs, guys, those things are fucking flawless. His installs are so fucking pretty looking. I would let him install Goodman in my house the way he does it, fucking every day, fucking twice on Sunday. I mean, because he does it right. So that just things like that should just prove to you that it's all about how it's put in. Yeah, shout out to Juan, man. He's a good guy, man. If you guys haven't checked out his YouTube channel, check that out. We took a little longer, so I guess just brief on gas furnaces. You guys know, I guess some are going to be different. I guess guys know what the components are. You have an inducer motor. What's the function? Know what each part is and the function of it. An inducer motor. The whole point of that is to blow that flue gas out the chimney, to keep that draft pulling across the heat exchanger, taking that out the flue pipe. All right. You have pressure switches. Pressure switches. The purpose of those pressure switches is to make sure that verify that inducer fan is running, and they're also trying to maintain a certain draft across that heat exchanger. If you have a big enough hole in your heat exchanger, even though your inducer fan's running, it'll also keep that pressure switch open, because you're not getting that negative pressure. It's not able to suck because it's leaking through. Sometimes you're going to see multiple pressure switches. If you have like a multi-stage gas valve or a modulating unit, you're going to have a high, medium, low pressure switches to be able each stage that thing's going to ramp up in. Obviously, we all know what a gas valve is. The purpose of that gas valve. Flame sensor is very big, has to be cleaned. Very big on ohming your igniters out, your hot surface igniters. That's why I always say when I do PMs, I check that before I turn the furnace on, because once you get that thing heated up, you can alter your reading.
For sure. Makes them go way, way up.
Exactly. And matter of fact, any of you guys out there who's been in these Facebook groups for a while, a bunch of guys shared a paper that it had like every different kind of igniter and like the ohm range that they should be. If you have that, share it in the Facebook group, or you can email it to us at hvacuncensored@gmail.com. I can't find it anywhere, because me and Kelly are going to start trying to take some of these documents and put them in the Facebook group. If you look over to the side, there's a place that we can put documents and different things like that, so anybody in our Facebook group can access those things. So I want to start getting these things and putting that stuff over there.
I'd like to see that. I've never seen one that shows the different type of igniters. But here's what I can tell you, what I've learned, and I took notes. Through the years, guys, take notes, because you know how our industry is. You may not see the same problem for 6 months. So the next time you get on it, you'll have a reference to go back on and say, okay, this is what I found that time. If you have a hard time remembering. And we have, service technicians have pretty damn good memories. But the thing is it could be so subtle, or you had to do a certain sequence of things in order to make it start working right, and you may forget the sequence. So just take notes. So I took notes years ago, and a silicone carbide is the one that's, shiny. They're going to be somewhere between 45 to 75 ohms new, typically. Now, if they're over 100, then we recommend replacement. And then when it comes to silicone nitride igniters, which are the tougher igniters, those read somewhere between 11 and 18 ohms when they're brand new, just to give you an idea. So if you see something really high on the nitride, you see something with 70 ohms, chances are it's probably getting ready to go bad. And then when it comes to flame sense current, I was told years ago that you got to have a microamp setting on your voltmeter, and all you do is unplug the spade terminal off of the flame sensor, and then put 1 meter lead on the spade terminal, and then the other meter lead on the actual sensor, so you complete the circuit. then turn your furnace on, and you should read somewhere between 0.3 to 0.7. If you're reading less than that, it's probably a dirty flame sensor. I've seen them read a little bit lower than that, like 0.25 or something like that, and chances are you're not going to have any flame sense issues. But that's, ideally that's what we're looking for.
No, that's good stuff, man. The other little thing about igniters, hot surface igniters, if you start to see that white carbon buildup and it's like bad, then you want to recommend replacing it, because normally when you start to get that white buildup, it's just a matter of time. And normally, like Kelly just said, your ohm reading is going to confirm that as well. But guys, every PM you do, you should be cleaning flame sensors. That is one of the most common calls you get, is a flame sensor being dirty. Oh, my flames are kicking on. They're running for a couple seconds and they're turning off. That is always going to happen. And I know that this is not really news, but to all you younger guys out there, never, ever, 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 fucking ever leave a house when you jump out a high limit switch, a rollout switch. As far as I'm concerned, anything in that safety circuit, okay? Do not do it. I know, we've talked about different things, and I know you want to get these people heat and you think you're doing the right thing, but no, guys, don't do that. Apartment complex we have, I've seen some of their guys like jumping out switches and stuff like that, and I'm like, dude, you guys are gonna kill somebody.
Yeah, no shit.
Like the manufacturer does this for a reason. Like you don't jump these things out. I mean, if you have two rollout switches, and I'm not gonna sit here and lie, there's been times back in the day where there's like a left and a right, where I've jumped out the right to get the furnace going, and I've literally went to the supply house, got the rollout switch, came back and put it on. And to be honest, is that okay? No, it's not.
No, because
So I'm not justifying that. I shouldn't have done that. You should never do it.
If a rollout switch trips for any reason, there's always, not saying that you won't get to a situation where you realize, okay, that's why it tripped. Maybe it was a clogged heat exchanger and you were able to pull the burners and clean it all up and inspect it and everything checked out okay. Then that's one thing for the rollout switch to trip. But if you've got in-shop burners and the rollout switch tripped for some reason, like there's always a bigger problem. So don't ever just reset a rollout and think that you're done. Like there had to be a reason. You got to dig deep into the furnace and look for that crack.
Kelly, I could kiss you right now. We must be on the same page tonight, man, because that was going to be my next part, guys. Most of these safety switches, if they trip, like Kelly just said, they're tripping for a reason. They don't normally go bad. Ideally, they should sit there and never, ever do anything. So if they're tripping off for a reason.
Yeah, we probably break more than the ones that actually fail, because you got to be careful if you got to pull the wires off the switch because you got to take something apart so you can clean the burner compartment. Those switches are really brittle. So, and they're, they do get pretty hot because most of the time they've got a pretty high temperature range on them. So they're really easy to break. So just be careful with them. But we probably break more accidentally than the ones that actually fail. But that's a big one. If it's a rollout switch, there is a bigger problem.
Yeah, that's like the same with high limit switches. Like if they go bad, it's probably because the thing was tripping off and on, off and on, off and on to the point it went bad. So that's why I know a lot of guys will go out and, this thing keeps tripping, but my temperature looks good now. I'm going to replace that switch. Like Kelly said, you got to look into it. And I've said this before, guys, Carrier is my expertise, so to speak. So if you have a 90 plus gas furnace and your rollout switches are tripping, especially if you have the ones with the closed burner box, you have an issue with your secondary heat exchanger. I can almost fucking guarantee it. So I'm actually going to start doing some segments more in depth on the Carrier stuff. And like I said before, guys, I am no expert on Carrier. I've just done it for a while, and I think that I have enough knowledge to be able to talk about it. It was actually brought up to me in a live stream that I did with Zach from Shop Talk and Andrew Greaves, who, if you guys don't know, is now the co-host of Shop Talk. So congratulations to you guys. It should be an awesome show with both of them on there. But where that was actually an idea that Zach had pitched to me. And I think it actually really is a good idea because a lot of guys hit me up about carrier stuff, which I'm glad to help. I've been able to help everybody so far. I know it's going to come a time when I'm not going to be able to because, like I said, I don't know everything about carrier. Normally, if I don't know, I know people to be able to get in touch with to find the answer out. But I'm going to try to do some more carrier specific stuff to cover some of this infinity stuff, some of the inverter stuff, the fault codes and things like that. So hopefully you guys will like that. If that's something you want to hear, leave that in the comments of the, when I share this podcast in the group, or if you're listening to it on YouTube, just let me know if that's something you would like to hear. And I'm pretty sure Kelly might be able to do the same thing on Train. I mean, I know Kelly's just a paper chasing owner, but he's still a smart man. So if, pretty sure he can help you guys when it comes to Train.
I've worked on lots of trains just because the company that I worked for before I started my own company, that's what they sold for many, many years. So pretty familiar with it. I used to fucking hate them because I hated, you had to pull the top off, to clean them. And the tops were so heavy and the units were so big. But
that's what she said.
Yeah. But
yes, it worked.
But I got used to it, and I don't know. I've had good luck with Train, and more so than not. And actually, I wanted to bring this up and just give a shout out to Jeremy Davis because he was in town. He probably still is in town. He was doing a factory tour at the Coleman factory, because the Coleman and York stuff is made right here in Wichita, Kansas. And
is it right next to the dump?
No.
I'm just kidding. No. I was going to ask you about that because I saw on Facebook about him saying that. I was wondering if you guys ever got to meet up.
We did yesterday. I bought his lunch and visited with him. It was nice meeting him, and that's kind of out of my comfort zone to just go meet somebody randomly that I don't know, but I just feel like we have a good community here. So I know people have reached out to Gil, like if they're in town or whatever the case. And so I just want to, all of us should be doing this. We ought to meet together and, we have the same struggles, the same problems, the same victories and defeats, and it's a brotherhood. So I appreciated meeting him, and I know I'll be talking to him some more in the future. And so don't be afraid to reach out to your brothers if they're in your town. Anybody else that comes to the Wichita, Kansas area, reach out to me, man. I'll gladly go to lunch with you and we can hang out for a little bit. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. So guys, if you didn't listen to what I just heard, is if you're ever in town near Kelly and you want free lunch, hit him up. Okay.
I'll buy your lunch. I'll be happy to. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same with me, man. If anybody, if you run into me and, I love talking to you guys and meeting guys. It's funny you say that because when I went to that carrier class, I actually ran into a guy today and he's like, hey, the HVAC Uncensored guy. And I was like, what's up, brother? But I had to get into the class because I had to go out and get one of my guys who was late. But he actually sent me a message on the post I put today. And he said, hey, sorry I greeted you as the HVAC Uncensored guy. Oh, hold on. It's goddamn sorry. Phone had a mind of its own. Hey, sorry I greeted you as the HVAC Uncensored. God damn it, Siri. This morning, I know your name. It just caught me off guard. But his name is Dan. Dan, I'm sorry if I butcher your last name, bud. But Dan Siraki. Sieracki, Dan Siraki. But yeah, man, that was awesome to meet you, dude. I love being out in public and meeting different people. It's an awesome feeling. Because obviously I can look at downloads and tell people that people listen to me and Kelly, but to be able to meet people and talk to them, it's very rewarding. It's fulfilling to know that what we're doing here actually serves a purpose. And, to meet the listeners is a really, really awesome feeling. So
yeah, it was really cool. And I'll gladly do it again. Anybody's in my part of my neck of the woods, shoot me a text message, reach out. I like to talk business, man. I can talk business like fucking day and night. I don't get tired of it because it excites me.
No way.
It excites me.
I don't believe that you talking business. That doesn't sound like the Kelly I know.
What I like to talk about. I don't really have any fucking hobbies. My business is my hobby. So,
but I mean, hey, that's why you've been successful, man, because you put that time into your business though. So, and like I've said to you guys 100 times, man, Kelly as mine and Kelly's friendship has grown from the first time that I talked to Kelly, this man spends a dick load of money going to classes on how to grow his business and how to do this and do that and how to be successful that he implements himself. And he passes that knowledge on to you guys for fucking nothing. Some of the things that Kelly said, I mean, I have learned stuff from Kelly that we've implemented ourselves. So make sure you guys take that stuff in, man. I know some guys are probably like, a couple of comments were like, oh man, it's sales and stuff like this. But guys, it's knowledge that's going to help everybody. And that's why I love 2 podcasts ago where Ethan, a young guy that we interviewed, made the statement that we're all salesmen if we're technicians. If you have to sell that capacitor, it just turned into a sales process. Not trying to, suck you off too hard there. I wanted to bring that up because Kelly does do that,
guys. Yeah.
Oh, hold on, guys. I gotta shit. I don't swallow.
No, I honestly, I don't, and I would never say this to brag because there's nothing, it's not about bragging. It's about, I just want to be better. I want to figure out this business thing. So that's why I spend so much time trying to learn it. And like I've said 1,000 times, I'm a normal guy. So I don't have this superior brain capacity. So it's fucking hard for me. It's hard. So that's why I have to work extra hard at it. Start, learning from other people. I've honestly spent about $55,000 this year just on my education, and probably spent $30,000 last year. And that's money that I could be paying myself, but I'm not. I'm investing in myself because, like we've said, the skills don't go away. The skills that I've learned and implemented and taken the time to learn and to master, those skills I'll always have. Once I learn it, I'm always going to have them. So it's one of those things that it's worth it. And that's why we talked about also on that same podcast about just investing in yourself. You got to invest in yourself. So I hate to get off on that subject, but I spent a lot of money on my own education. And the bottom line is, if you don't spend money on that you're going to get the education either way. I read that a long time ago. When you're in business, you're going to pay for that education either way. Now, it's going to be paid for in a good way where you're actually wanting to spend that money, or you're going to fuck up and you're going to owe money and you're going to pay it that way too. So I've paid, my education right now is probably $300,000 altogether, because I just got through 10 years of mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. But that's how you learn. So, but it's easier it's better to learn some stuff first so you can kind of avoid some of those mistakes, because it's just funner to spend money on yourself to learn something than to spend it, cleaning up a mess that you created.
Yeah. I mean, guys, exactly. Like we've said on other podcasts, and anybody who's listened to me since I've been in podcasting, I've always said that knowledge is power with anything. I mean, as far as like me being a father, being a husband, being a manager, being a technician, whatever, any knowledge you can have on a certain subject is going to make you better at no matter what it is. You start furthering your education technical wise, if it makes you be better at your job, if you're trying to get into management or sales or trying to open your own business and you do classes like Kelly, any of those classes are going to help. So always embrace that opportunity and invest in yourself, because that's what you're doing. Like Kelly just said, you're investing in yourself. You're investing in your future. If you are worried and concerned and you want to have a prosperous future, then invest in yourself, guys. I mean, that's what it is, especially a lot of us who, if you didn't go to trade school, even though I did go to trade school, but if you didn't go to trade school and you just hopped in the field and you didn't go to college, rather than thinking, yeah, man, I got a career and didn't go to college, well, take maybe a fraction of the money you would have spent and put that into classes. Better yourself, crisp yourself up so that you can be better than the next guy. I mean, this is a dog-eat-dog world, guys. And when you're in a company, I mean, you obviously want to be the best you can be. I mean, that's how you're going to get more money and the nicer things and stability and stuff like that.
I also just want to say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So like my courses, they're not the end all be all. There's 15 other people out there that have courses, and go buy their courses too. Buy them all, learn it all, because you're going to take, you know how it is, Gil, every class that you go to, every course you take, whatever the case, you might, you pick out the golden nuggets, but that's all you get is a couple of golden nuggets if you're lucky for each class and each course. So pick out those golden nuggets and go after as many as you can get, because it's the difference between a lot of pain and failure and defeat versus having some success.
Yeah. I mean, and that's like today, me going to that class, a class that I could have taught that class, and I'm not trying to say that to be cocky. I could have. Even, my friend who's the instructor was like, what are you coming to teach the class so I can relax? And we joked. But there's always little tidbits that stay in your mind, so you might take that same class over and you might take something away from that class different every time. So when you take these classes, take notes. Just as things are happening, just jot it down. So that way, and always go back and look at your notes afterwards. Like, guys, now I have my new van and I'm going to get something a little neater, but I've had this milk crate with books and service manuals and different things. And I can't tell you how many times that I went back to those, and I'm like, oh man, I got this problem. I remember talking about that in this one class, and I'll go back to my notes and be like, oh shit, there it is, man. And bam, I got the problem. So that stuff pays off. And that literature and stuff that you get, don't just go to the truck and throw that in the trash can, man.
Save that
shit, man. And don't take it home. Yeah, don't take it home and put it on the shelf. Keep that shit in your truck, man. I'm OCD. I've actually taken those things home and made copies of it. And I actually have one at home. I have right behind me. If you guys ever see me in the live streams, those file cabinets, there's one of those file drawers. That's all it is manuals that I've gotten. And all those manuals, I have copies of every single one of them in my truck.
Because the next service call you get to, it's going to be, ma'am, do you have the paperwork for this thermostat? And they're going to say, oh, no, we don't know where that's at. Well, that's when you need it. So you can program the thermostat or change the settings, or, it could just be a furnace, an installation manual for the furnace. Keep those things. I've got a shelf in my office that I keep, I've got one of almost everything, so I can refer to it when I get asked questions.
Yeah, it's just, and read. The installation instructions and what I was talking about is like the manuals that you get from those classes, because like some of my guys, they'll give you these books of stuff they go over, and they'll just throw them in their truck, and then eventually they get thrown away. Like, guys, that's priceless information that they just gave you. Keep that. I don't know. I forgot where I was gonna go from there. But look, man, we were just winging it and thought we wouldn't be able to make a whole podcast, and now we got to try to stop talking because we're over an hour.
Yeah, yeah. You're not supposed to say that. No, I'm just kidding. No, you already did say that. You explained that earlier. So we didn't really prepare for this one. I know Gil had shit go down over the weekend. It kept him worried and everything. And then I sat down 2 or 3 times over the weekend. I'm like, okay, what are we going to talk about? And I was just drawing a blank. I just need some rest, I think. So, didn't draw anything up. And what do you know? We can talk for hours about this shit. So
yeah. I'm a motor mouth. You know me, I could never stop talking. But guys, me and Kelly are still, like I said, normally me and Kelly have, whatever we're going to talk about a couple of days prior, we talk about it beforehand. But also, guys, we want this to be interactive. You guys, seriously, we always want to do the Q&A, but guys don't send in questions or don't send in serious questions. And, we like to joke around. So it's cool when we put a post and guys, do, funny questions. That's fine. But send us serious questions that we can do in the Q&A, because we want to keep that segment in the podcast, but we just need questions to answer. Also, let us know topics. If you guys have topics we want to talk about, let us know, and we'll try to do our best to be able to talk on that topic. But you guys can't ask us, how do I wire up an economizer on this model number, blah, blah, blah. It can't be, you know what I mean? So, I want you guys to, we want to be able to answer your questions, but it can't be something like that. Yeah, just definitely. You can put them on the Facebook group. You can ask on YouTube. You can email them to us. All that stuff. I mean, me and Kelly make ourselves pretty available, and we are very, very good about getting back to people in a timely fashion. So,
hey, with that being said, the one thing you said you hired somebody. You guys hired somebody this week. I hired somebody yesterday, so he's green. Like all my guys, I seem to just get green guys. But I'm still looking. If I could find a 5-year tech or something. So if anybody out in my area is interested in coming working for a badass company with lots of room to grow. I mean, we have huge plans to grow by 2020, the end of 2020. So just had to throw that out there. But I did hire somebody also, a young guy that's
yeah. Let me know how much you're paying, dude. Maybe I'll move to Kansas. You know what I mean? But we hired a guy, man, and he's actually worked here before, and Steve knows his shit. So this is a steal. So to be able to get this guy back is awesome. And as you guys know, if you saw on Facebook, I am finally in my new van, my Transit, full time, all switched over. I got it all yeah, because I was tired of flip flopping back and forth, and I just do it. I just fucking did it. So I still have some things. So it was kind of a rush this weekend getting everything in there, but it's set up good for now. And a lot of guys have asked for like a video on it. So that is coming. And I know I've been saying for like 8 podcasts now that YouTube videos are coming, and I promise you guys they are. It's just something keeps coming up to where those are kind of at the bottom of the list when it comes between work, family, work, the podcast, and then YouTube. So that stuff will be coming. I promise you guys. But with that being said, let's go ahead and close this thing out, brother.
Hey, thanks for listening, guys. We greatly appreciate you. Greatly appreciate you, everybody's participation in the Facebook group. We appreciate you. Thanks so much. We are the fastest growing HVAC podcast out there, and it's because of you. So thanks so much, and go make money.
Yes. Thank you guys, man. We thank each and every one of you, man. It wouldn't be possible without you guys. We are rescheduling the Yellow Jacket giveaway that was this weekend. Me and Kelly will have to pick a date because I know both of us are busy this weekend. Kelly has plans and I'm going to be at a wedding. So we will reschedule that and we will get that information out to you guys ASAP. But you guys know you can check us out on all the major platforms, iTunes,
Stitcher.
Yeah, sorry. iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify. We should be in all those now. You can always email us at hvacuncensored@gmail.com. Don't forget to check out. There's days ticking on the Teespring account. I will share that link in the Facebook group again. To the guys on YouTube who do not have Facebook accounts, I will put that link in the comments. Or I'll try to maybe go back and put it in the description for you guys because that's going to stop soon. And thank you to everyone who has purchased merchandise, man. That is awesome. So, yeah, that's about it, man. So, guys, as always, stay safe out there, man. You always want to make it home the same way that you left. And remember, always set yourself apart. Do what the next guy's not doing. Until next week, stay HVAC Uncensored, and we will talk at you fuckers later. Peace.
Peace, bitches.
Thanks for listening to the HVAC Uncensored podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Instagram, or email us anytime at hvacuncensored@gmail.com. Now, get back to work. Shut this down. The views and opinions shared on the HVAC Uncensored podcast may not necessarily be the views and opinions of our sponsors or guests.